Okay, I'm re-recording this video. I didn't like the last version that I produced. So, yeah, this is Appetites by Judith Farquhar. Um, so the general trend that Judith Farquhar wants to make the main point, um, she's trying to summarize that um, the trend of people getting to care about themselves again and care about their own pleasure, their own what's the word? Jesus. They're beginning to care about um, what's the wording she uses? Um, how through artfully managing food, we can produce the powers that create pleasurable experiences. And so I think the point he's trying to make in the book is that um, the point of communism is what she's suggesting, what I understood, is that um, the, the communists stripped the will to appreciate pleasure from people, and through um, and she makes this point by referencing different literature and different plays throughout the book. And that is really positive. Um, she has a secondary point that she makes constantly as well, that I think the point that she's making is she's trying to connect constantly these pleasures to a Chinese identity rooted in medicine, um, which is not really what I came to the book for, but that is kind of, I think, her agenda. She has an agenda. Um, yeah. So these so the best parts of the book are when she is referring to literature that is being written um, as China comes out of communism, or even plays that were kind of bucking the trend of Chinese propaganda, where people were, kind of being individualistic in their goals and aspirations during the play, or during different literature characters and such. Um, so that's the part really about food that's kind of interesting to me. But what you won't get in the book, while I'm still on food, I'll say the book doesn't really talk about vegetarianism. It kind of talks more about class divisions and food, that different classes of people ate, and these um, how meat consumption increased, and um, talks a little bit about season like the infatuation with seasoning food and cooking food quality to like a really good quality, and having feasts. She discusses her own anecdotes about when she would go out to dinner with other colleagues. She she's a like a an what's it they called, anthropologist, and so she studies Chinese medicine, and so she's constantly trying to, I guess, justify her own research, or I don't know how to put it, but she's constantly referring back to it as a point of comfort for her. Um, whether or not I think that um, the point she's making really requires referring back to Chinese medicine, but yeah. So that's kind of interesting how the Chinese people kind of stopped believing in a Western. What the point she's making is that the Chinese people stopped believing in a Western idea, communism, and replace it, and to replace it, she's suggesting that they come back to traditional Chinese medicine. Not that they do that, but that's what she's saying, that is what they did. Um, so yeah, the second part of the book that was interesting to me was the section about the individualization and love and sex in China. So these studies that she doesn't, what's the book she reads? She reads, I have it here written down. Love Must Not Be Forgotten. That's a book she refers to during this section. She is referring to this couple who, well, she's referring to the book. This story is told in first person through a female narrator, and she is like struggling to find love, but so what am I getting with this? She is kind of comparing, contrasting love before communism and after communism, and this story is kind of post-communist. It is post-communist. Yeah. Some things that I learned from the book is kind of the basis of Chinese aversion to homosexuality and transsexuality, and it's kind of like an atheistic justification that kind of aligns surprisingly with Western conservatism. So that's kind of interesting. You would expect. I expected their aversions to these things to come from a different point of view. And she doesn't really try to make it a thing about, well, she kind of does. So I'll finish my sentence. She was trying. I expected her to make their aversions to homosexuality and lustfulness and different forms of debauchery is I thought she would try to connect that to medicine, but she kind of does in a way through like a back door. She says, well, she refers to people. The book says that the Chinese people are against these things because it's unnatural, and that if somebody begins to have these thoughts, it's the parents' job to intervene and show them the right way. So it's show them like what is natural. But funnily, like I'm not sure that. I mean, I don't personally think that works very well, but it's interesting that was their goal. But so this book was written in 2000. So there's another caveat to everything I'm saying in this, is that the points in this book are kind of dated. I feel like if I was reading this when I was in like middle school, everything would have kind of connected a lot more to my own modern existence, because I kind of had a lot of these same misconceptions as a middle schooler that that the anthropologist is saying that the Chinese people have. So not to be rude or anything, but there's that. But she's saying that through casting away communist and what's the word, collectivist goals, they just jumped headfirst into westernization, and she kind of catalogs the difficulties with that as well, and that's an interesting part of the book. You'll find I found that the section about erotica and fiction, like fictional, like sexology, she says, is a common thing, but it was very but people didn't want it. People treated it like strip clubs and stuff. They didn't want it in their neighborhood. They didn't want to what's the word, like fund these businesses, but they kept popping up, and just like in America, they have, well, not, I don't think it happens so much anymore, but I think in the early 2000s it was a little more popular, or it was more in my mind. that they had these models kind of advertising everything, and the 4-inch heel, short dress sort of thing. I don't know if I'll find the picture as I flip through, but there's a picture of an advertisement that looks kind of reminiscent of American advertisements from the early 2000s. This is a magazine, but it's not necessarily like a sex magazine. It's just a magazine that is what is I'm probably pretty sure it says. It's just a health magazine, but in the article they have a piece about lesbian love. So there's that, but I guess I will say whether or not I suggest the book. So I would like to read a book that's more modern than this. I think that it was good as like a snapshot of the early 2000s and the 90s and the contemporary cultural shifts that were happening in China at that time. But really, like, unless I have a time machine, I don't think that it's very necessary, except to see, the trend of where things are going. And I don't know where things are going in China because I can only read so much. But so I'll close with this. I think her conclusion to the book was very strong. She says this picture here is Lei Feng. He's a communist soldier. Whether he's a fictional communist soldier, he was used as like a model. This was very common in China to have these like model citizens that like they hoist up and say, "Be like him." An example of this, I forget his name, the man who like struck all the spikes, the railroad spikes into the ground, and then he died against a robot. I forget his name, but he's like one of those figures, Johnny Appleseed, those sort of people. I don't think we really have those anymore. And her point is similarly that she worries that without these sorts of characters going forward, China might struggle to, Chinese citizens might struggle to kind of have a shared ideal. But yeah, back to this poster. Sorry. She says what's interesting about this character is that he is now selling medicine at like from a capitalist company. He's looking you in the eye. He's showing you he's one of you now. He's kind of stepped off his pedestal in a way, stopped looking forward to like the future communist utopia, and he's saying that he's one of you and buy my medicine, I guess. But that's all I had to say about the book. If you like it, if you have any questions, let me know. Have a good one. Thanks for watching.